Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Deborah Peters Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have an amazing guest, and we're going to cover some real life issues that are going on in our country right now and what you can do to protect yourself and increase your security for you, your family, and all of your loved ones. And before we do, I wanted to say thank you so much for subscribing to my podcast. I really appreciate it. All of your likes and comments really help the channel grow. We're getting some really good comments on iTunes, and lots of followers are coming along on YouTube and Spotify. And, we're also on Rumble and SoundCloud and all the major podcast platforms. So do share it with your friends and family. This is a show that is all about consciousness, which is a great way to segue into today's topic. You have to be self-aware in your life in order for you to create the results you want to create, whether that's in your health, the relationship you have between your thoughts and your body, whether it's in your wealth, the relationship that you have with money, whether it's in your self-expression. Are you really able to say the truth about yourself and be unapologetic about being you? Are you taking all of that into your business and growing a business that serves humanity and provides a place for people to come and share their gifts and their talents as your teammates? So that's what the Deborah Peters Show is all about. And today I have back a wonderful guest that is a repeat guest. He's brilliant at what he does. His name is Anthony Sabio, former CIA, Secret Service, U.S. Marine. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
And counterterrorism expert. So today we're going to get into the topic about the crime in this country. And Anthony's got some great tools and information and tips for you to be able to deal with it. I mean, it's a real thing and you can't ignore it. So give us a little bit of insight. What's really, I think you probably have a better understanding than most people, and obviously more understanding and awareness about what's going on in this country than what the media talks about. So give us some insight on what's happening.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Yeah, yes, 100%. I have a huge insight on what's going on currently with the current crime that's arising. I work with a lot of clients, from corporations, from politicians, all the way to small business owners, and they're seeing across the board rising crime into the double digits.
Wow.
Across the board, you're talking robbery, theft, burglary, arson, double digits. And what's causing this? I mean, there's a lot of issues with inflation. Obviously, when that starts raising and people don't have jobs or the money don't go as far, they're going to roll into, doing things that are unsavory.
Sure.
Also, the family values. The family values has such deterioration in that it's caused so many kids just to go out there and do whatever they want. Add in there the social media. You can see on TV how many times that this crime is actually videotaped by the perpetrators.
Yeah, instead of doing something about it.
Exactly. So they get their 15 seconds of fame in there. So those things added up have caused us to get into this situation where we have to battle back. We have to protect ourselves. Add that policing is all-time low. Can't get cops anymore. The people don't want to go into policing. And you have to protect yourself. So now you're trying to deal with a societal change and thinking that you did have mechanisms in place, like the government, the local law enforcement, to protect you, but it's just not there anymore. So now, what do you do in this type of society? Well, you have to defend yourself. You have to protect yourself. And it doesn't come with the tools. I'm not saying for everyone you need to go purchase weapons or knives or anything like that, but you have to have your biggest tool nice and sharp, and that's your brain. That's thinking about the dangers that are out there and actually having a plan and preparing for things that may happen.
Yes, it's interesting because, pardon me, the way I look at it is there's a breakdown, obviously, in family values, 100%, and mindset. Mindset is the key to everything. Whatever your mindset is about something is what you intend, it's what you focus on, it's what you live by. You know, we live and die by the quality of our self-talk. And so what you're really saying here is there's a breakdown in self-respect, morale, love for our country. You know, this is it's a crumbling of the foundation that we've lived our lives by, and that has repercussions. You know, it's like, what did Einstein say? You know, every action has a greater or equal reaction.
Yes.
So this is what we have, this blowback now, and it's in our faces. And the question is then, how do we deal with that?
Yeah, that's the biggest question. And, a couple of things we could do is understand our environment. If you want to put your head in the sand and not see what's actually happening, then you're going to become a victim to the environment. But understand the environment. Do not put yourself in certain situations. We could talk about the recent crime that's happened, the Tennessee teacher that was murdered. Certain things,
it's ridiculous.
Maybe not jogging that early in the morning and going alone, going in groups. The Memphis shooting rampage, that's something that is unavoidable when someone's just going out there and randomly shooting. But listening to the news, understanding the crime, and using avoidance, that is the key thing. That's understanding your environment. When I talk to a lot of clients and I'm trying to protect, say, their home, I could protect the home 100%. I could put alarm systems. I could have armed security or unarmed security at access points. But what's going to affect that perimeter is outside interior or outside effects. To understand the environment, understand crime waves that's happening, that's going to affect the inside. So that's what I want everyone to understand, is to understand your environment. If you're moving from one neighbor to another, if you're transiting, understand the environment you're going into and understand what areas you need to stay clear from.
I did some research for today's show on crime statistics in the country, and I always question how accurate these are. So let me just read off what I found. So crime is up 76% in Milwaukee. Asheville, North Carolina, it's up 31%. Murders are up 30%. And this is, by the way, this is FBI data overall, right? 40.6% since 2021 in New York City. I mean, this is absurd. 76% increase in crime in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So then it goes on. So here's a list of the cities across America that have the highest crime. I mean, they're obvious, but it's worth stating it, right? New York City, Chicago, Milwaukee, Seattle. Seattle's crumbling at the seams. It's disintegrating. Los Angeles, which I moved out of, thank you, God. Washington, D.C., which is insane to me. I mean, it would seem the obvious is that the city where our capital is should be the safest. And by the way, I did this, I was on a board of directors, a trade association. For a few years, they had me on their legislative chair as well. And I would travel to DC to lobby Congress for them. And it always blew my mind what a mess it was, the homelessness and the trash and the encampments. And I'm just like, how is this possible in our capital? But that's another conversation. Philadelphia, New York City, I said that already, Delaware, and Asheville. Anthony, what's the common denominator among all of these cities?
Well, I hate to say it, the common denominator is the actual local government.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's ran from, who's running, the mindset, and how they look at policing. All those areas, common denominator over there is none of the small crimes are getting prosecuted. And those small crimes turn into larger crimes. And when you refuse to prosecute, when you refuse to allow law enforcement to do their job, or when you're law enforcement and you know that you make this arrest, they're going to be out within 30 minutes.
I know.
It's futile. And it's a revolving door. So you get law enforcement that's deflated, law enforcement that doesn't want to be there because they're not backed up. So you get a lack of policing, coupled with the lack of prosecution of small crimes, starts turning to what we had, and that's a common denominator between
It is.
all those cities. It's the administration that's running it, and it's a lack of prosecution.
Absolutely 100%. And it will continue to grow. It's a playground for crime, for criminals, for people that want to take advantage of that opportunity. It's like an invitation, basically.
And the worst part about it, all those leaders that are in those cities, the mayors, the say DC, you have the higher ups Congress, they have protection. They don't have to run into a store thinking that anything's gonna happen to them.
Yeah.
But it's a disservice to the people that are living in the society, in the neighborhoods that are dealing with the crime day in and day out. So that is the disservice those politicians are doing to the people. And my whole goal is to try to save lives, to have people understand the environment, understand what you're living in.
Yeah.
And if you can't move to an area that has better prosecution on crime, then you have to learn how to defend yourself and put yourself in the right situation.
Yeah. So you have to really be honest with yourself about your environment. And I want to get into that because last night I was out at a cocktail reception with some business leaders here in Newport Beach, California, and I was having a conversation with a fellow that is actually South African. And I've heard stories about South Africa, parts of South Africa where you have to have, you basically, when you own a house with a yard, whatever size that might be, you have to build a compound around you with an electric fence. And I've heard that story, and I just confirmed it with him. I said, is this a real thing? He goes, yes, everywhere. Because what's happened, and this is a great sort of comparison of where this could go in America. In South Africa, they have these little shanty towns that are basically built up out of, whatever scraps of materials people can find or steal, and then mold together with some mud, literally, and create these little huts that they live in and create these shanty towns. Well, that shanty town might be 3 miles, 5 miles from neighborhoods where people work and have jobs and grow businesses and pay for their stuff and have a home and family values and a different way of thinking is what I'm talking about basically here, right? And so, what happens when you're in a situation where you don't have enough, whether that's food, money for resources, whatever it is, you're going to go to the most vulnerable situation and you're going to take what's theirs and you're going to make it yours so you can survive.
That's completely true. I mean, I've seen overseas the same type of homes. I thought it was compounds. There'll be walls built around their perimeter.
Yep.
And it's to keep people out. Now, we don't have that in the United States. We have, regular homes with picket fence and things like that. But is that where we're moving towards? Because we can't have a handle on crime, and crime is prevalent overseas in the third world countries I was at because A, the police were corrupted themselves, or B, there just wasn't enough law enforcement out there.
Yeah.
So, where are we moving towards as a society? Are we moving towards that? Because that's pretty sad. If I start seeing that over here, it's not a good thing.
Well, that would be a very massive indication that we've hit a tipping point.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we're climbing there now. I mean, there are, like, to your point, the teacher in Tennessee, we're on our way there. But let's focus on understanding your environment. And I really feel that there's a couple things, and you're the expert, but this is how I see it as a layperson. I've traveled all over the world doing business in 19 countries alone. And I've been gone for weeks at a time. And I've taken a lot of trains through Europe and, flown in and out of cities that one time I took a car service from this one town in Italy, actually Naples, where it was so dangerous to get from the train to the car that I had to be escorted.
Oh
You know,
wow. Yeah.
and this is a beautiful resort style city on the Mediterranean in Italy, you know. So what was required of me was to always have like a 360 view of my environment because I was vulnerable. You know, I'm a woman traveling alone with
Hmm.
luggage, and I'm not, and you know, it's not like I can sprint somewhere, right?
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
There's
talk about that.
there's a lot of things that you have to do when you're looking at your environment. One, if you're going on a trip, plan your trip. Understand what the crime is. Understand danger areas. Sounds like you understood what danger areas were out there. You made some research. Second, once you go into that environment, you want to make sure you're in areas where you're safer per se. If it's nighttime, make sure that you're not walking areas that are poorly lit. Make sure
Yeah.
it's very much lit. Make sure you're walking areas that have a lot of people. You're not isolated by yourself. Don't use cut throughs. Don't use alleys. That's one of
Right.
the worst things you could do. Also, that 360 understanding. Look around and see who's following you,
Yeah.
who's watching you. Just taking those glances and looking around, be more self aware, creates a huge difference. For the Tennessee victim, she was the person, the perpetrator, was following her at different locations. You see on camera that the vehicle was following. So that's something that you got to keep an eye on. What is around your environment? A
Yeah.
lot of people, I myself, put my headphones on. I like to run, but I
Sure.
still turn one off so I can hear what's going around
Yes.
and I can understand my environment and see things developing. I don't get too sucked into what I'm doing. The other aspect is our phones are probably the worst thing you can have when moving and transiting from one area to the other because it takes up so much of your attention, your focus
Mm-hmm.
right there and tunnel visioned that you lose track of everything around you. So just like driving, you don't want to be texting and driving
Yeah.
or searching something on your phone while driving. Do the same thing. If you're in an area that you're not safe, that you feel not safe, that you know it's not safe, put that phone away. Don't be an easy target.
Yeah. And this is so all of this is really good advice, regardless if you're traveling or if you're at home. I mean, we're using this example because I was traveling and um, having myself moving through areas that were unknown to me, just as a
Hmm.
part of necessity. One time I was changing trains in Italy, and there was a gap literally in the middle of the night where I was in this train station for 3 or 4 hours till the next train came at like 2 in the morning, you know? Um, and a lot of how I dealt with that was through my own intuition. And
Yep.
I started to get this weird vibe about being in this station. So I walked across the street to this restaurant that had this patio that had all these lights on. I mean, it was like lit up like a movie set. And I sat there because I felt like nobody's going to give me a hard time when everybody can see what's going on, you know? Um, but I feel that intuition is really the key here. You know, take to your point, when you shut off, when you stop yourself from engaging in your phone 24/7, you actually have a chance to dial into your inner radar, and that
Yes.
can save you from all sorts of things,
Yeah,
right?
definitely, definitely. That understanding your environment, that I what I call it, and I call it with when I was in operations, doing things overseas, and I tell a lot of clients, it's that spidey sense that you get, that tingling, that hey,
Yes.
something's wrong. I've
Yes.
conducted so many operations and went off that feeling and trusted that gut feeling, that spidey sense, and made decisions based off that that turned out to be very good decisions. There's just something about understanding and being one in your environment that you can sense. Your body can sense when
Yeah.
something's wrong, when there's danger coming around or something just doesn't feel right. And you have to listen to that. But when you're engrossing your phone, you're not going to get that sense.
No, you're tuned out. You're disconnected from yourself. So let's talk a little bit more about, and then I want to get into some actual tools. A little bit more about your intuition, proprioceptiveness, being dialed into the energy of your environment and letting that radar, that inner radar that you have, tell you and guide you. So is that something that you utilize when you're working with your clients to tell them to take note of that?
I definitely do. When I was teaching special operations in the military, I taught mountaineering. And a lot of it is understanding the environment and feeling the weather change and feeling things to make appropriate decisions, because you'll
Yeah.
feel this in the environment to understand what is happening. The climate's changing. So I take it the same way in safety. When I talk with clients, I tell them to understand the environment, feel the energy around you, feel
Yeah.
the vibes. When you have someone walking along and you just don't feel a good vibe with that person, there's a reason it's like that. And I
Yes.
kind of key into a lot of, dogs. I'm a dog lover. I love dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you notice, dogs have a great sense of
Right.
people that are good and people that are bad. And when someone walks up and they don't like them, you probably want to pay attention to that. So that's kind of developing that inner sense of what is right, what's not right, what is good, what's not good. Listening to
Yeah.
people's tone, understanding their demeanor, watching them as they walk by. How are they walking where they're free loving with love and joy, or are they walking in a way where they're kind of casing the place out and looking for targets, looking to cause trouble?
Yeah, you can feel it. You can,
No,
100%, you can feel it.
you could definitely feel it. And that's part of being alert to your surroundings,
Yeah.
understanding what's happening. We use a lot of color coding when I talk with clients. White is I have no idea what's going on. I'm just walking along aimlessly. Then you got what we call yellow or orange, and that's where you're alert, but you're not overly alert. You're just
Yeah.
aware of your surroundings. That's actually where you want to be. And then you got red. Red is where you are paranoid and you are ready for a fight and you're walking around with a fight in mind that's going to happen like right now. That's not where you want to be, because that's very draining. It's you're paranoid about everything, and
Yeah. You're
you
wired.
you're
You're
just
amped.
wired. Yeah, you're just wired. You want to be in that orange or yellow state. You want to be there where you're
That's
self-aware
good.
of the environment. You're seeing things at 360. All senses are alert to everything that's going around, and you're absorbing everything in and able to process it. That's where you want to be, especially when you go into areas where you're uncomfortable, you've never been, or it's an area where you know that crime has been spiking. That's how you want to react. That's how you
So,
want to be.
yeah, so this reminds me of a situation I experienced. I guess it was probably during 2020. Yeah, I think it was probably during 2020. I was in Beverly Hills at an event, and an outdoor event. It was probably September or something of the year, like late in the year. And when the event kind of broke up, I thought, well, I'm just going to run a couple of errands. And at the time, I was residing in downtown LA, where it wasn't walkable. You couldn't get outside and get fresh air. It was just too dangerous. People were getting mugged in the middle of the day at Target on Figueroa. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'm in Beverly Hills. I used to live here. I know this town by like the back of my hand. I'm going to leave my vehicle parked where it is. So I'm not like driving a block and reparking. And I'm just going to, hit up a couple stores and get the provisioning that I need. So I'm walking down the street and I can like my whole radar is lit up. I can feel someone observing me with bad intentions. I can just feel it's not a good thing. And so I keep walking, and this one particular street I was on had this section of the block that wasn't well lit. And it just felt wrong to me to go there. But I'm already down the block away from my vehicle, and it's kind of like a toss up. Do I go back to my vehicle or do I keep going? Like, I had to make a decision in the moment what was going to be the best sort of strategy for this time, because now he was following me. Wasn't just watching me. He was following me, and he'd been following me for about a block. So I'm assessing this like just from an intuitive level, and like a gift happened. These people, there's 3 people came out of this building, and it was probably 8 o'clock at night. You know, it was dark, right? These 3 people, like a gift, came out of this building and walked onto the sidewalk just down the block, kind of toward the darker area. And I'm like, perfect. I'm just going to go and inject myself into this group.
Yeah.
So I just hightailed it, you know, down the street, and I walked right up to them, and I said, this guy behind me is following me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just don't feel safe. And you know what they said to me? They said, he was following us earlier. We saw him.
Yeah.
He was on whoever could be the most vulnerable in the moment, and he was looking.
Yes. And you know, that is a very good example of what you just said, of understanding your environment and coming out and preparing, having a plan. You know, you knew you had to go down this dark area. You either turn back and face the person that's following you, or go down this dark area and try to figure out. You had to make a decision there. That is preparing for something that's going to happen. You waited out, you made your decision, and once you made that decision, you committed to it. It turned out that other people showed up, and you found a way to link up with them and be able to be stronger in a group and in numbers.
Yeah.
But that is exactly the type of mindset that is being alert, being that yellow, that orange, understand your environment. A lot of people, they just walk in white, and they'll just walk as if nothing's happening. And then they're behind the power curve when something does happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, it was like, it truly was a gift that those people showed up, and they were just walking to their car, and I just took advantage of that moment because that was what was available to me. You know, I think what surprised me is, this is happening in Beverly Hills. I mean,
Oh, yes.
you know, Beverly Hills is a small town, and it's very walkable. Like I just think you just, at one point you could walk anywhere at any time of the day or night. You know, I used to, when I lived there, I had a sheepdog, and I used to take my dog out for long wanders at 10 o'clock at night, just admiring the homes and the beauty of the city. And that's just not possible anymore. It's another one we should put on this list.
Yes, it's not, because, you know, crime just keeps spreading. You know, it goes to areas where people are vulnerable. You know, if I was a perpetrator, if I was a criminal, if I want to do bad things, I'm going to go where it's easy targets. Easy targets are usually people that live in better neighborhoods because they don't have that street smarts. They're not used to that.
They're trusting.
Plus it's target rich.
Yeah.
You know, that is where the money's at. That's where I'm going to do my business at. That's where I want to commit my crime. So understanding that your area that you're in could be easily accessible by transit, vehicle or mass transit, and people that come in to do crime in your area and leave right out.
So there's 2 approaches here, I feel, that need to be addressed simultaneously for people. One approach is we have an immediate overall problem that individuals, families, business owners need to have tools to address. And I suppose that's probably where your tactical mindset comes into play.
Yeah.
And then there's also a big picture. So if we could take a few minutes and maybe spend 5 minutes on each. The big picture is, this is our country that is, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 plus Beverly Hills. We have 10 cities I mentioned that have vast populations. So there's a big picture here that we have to address. So, but they're 2 different strategies, because the individuals, the homeowners, the families, the business owners, that's the tactical mindset for in the moment, and some preparation too, right? So
Yes,
let's talk about that first, and then let's get into the bigger picture, because I think we
not a
want to
problem.
address that too.
Yeah, not a problem. So the individual, I call it individual tactics, TTPs, tactics, techniques, and protocols, things that you hold yourself to. And once you identify what you're lacking in, or what you need to do, what type of scenarios they may affect you. So if you're a business owner, robbery. If you are a single female that works, say, late at night and have to walk to your car from, say, your business place of business, those are things that you have to put scenarios to, and not
Yeah,
just regular scenarios as if I'm just going to go to a mall, something may happen. We're talking very specific scenarios because that's something that you do in and day out.
sure.
So instead of trying to go out there and say, okay, if I'm in a mall and somebody, starts doing an active shooter at the mall, what am I going to do? Don't worry about that big scenario. Worry about your day in and day out stuff, because once you start developing a tactical mindset, then it translates into everything else in your life.
Right.
So if you know that you are a
Right.
single female and you're moving around different areas late at night, how can I prepare myself if I get attacked? First thing, like I said, is you have to have that mindset of scenarios based mindset of things can happen to me. A lot of people say, and I talk to a lot of clients and they say this to me, oh, that won't happen, you know,
Oh, head in the
but
sand.
their heads completely in the sand, they're walking in white. So let's just say, okay, what if it does happen? So what are you going to do? And a lot of them say, I don't know. And that's
Yeah.
the wrong thing, because I always tell a lot of my clients, you're never going to rise to the occasion. You're going to fall to the lowest level training you have. And if the training you have, lowest level training, is at least a scenario mindset, then when that happens, your body's already conditioned to react to that thing, to that
Yes.
scenario, because it's already played itself out 1,000 times. That's why we're so good in the military, because we train, we go through these
Yeah.
scenarios. When I talk with my clients, I go through these scenarios so they get used to it. So it's nothing of a surprise. It's lowering down that fear, that shock value that comes when you're
Yes.
approached. So we're trying to minimize that as much as possible. So going through the scenarios, understanding if I'm a female and I'm walking and I'm, say, a nurse, and my car is in the parking lot 200 yards away, and I work, the graveyard, I get off at like midnight or something like that. What do I do transiting out there? There's a couple of things you can have. There's pepper spray, there's understanding your environment, there's having your keys in your hand,
Having
there's
an
little
escort.
having the escort, having a flashlight with you because it's so
Yes.
dark. Have a flashlight. It doesn't hurt. Because once a perpetrator is looking at that as a target, they're seeing that you're vigilant. They're seeing that you're prepared and you're ready. They rather go to somebody that is less prepared, an easier target. They don't want to. What they want to do is commit their crime and be gone. Whether it's kidnapping you and taking you, they want to do it fast and they want to get out of the area. They don't want to stick around there. If they're going to try to mug you, they're going to go in, they're going to try to mug you, and they're going to try to leave. So it's understanding the scenarios and preparing for those things. I tell a lot of clients, simple self-defense courses works a lot.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you don't have to go into MMA. You don't have to go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Something is better than nothing. If you are
Well, and
90, go ahead.
it's a transferable skill set into other parts of your life,
Yes, definitely,
right?
definitely.
So it's not just about this isolated training that you may never use because nothing is ever going to happen to you. These are transferable skill sets. I've taken active shooter training, how to deal with that. Um, I've gone to the gun range and learned how to handle a gun, and there's a lot that comes from that. It's like it builds up other parts of you.
It
So
does.
maybe I'll never find myself in a situation where there's an active shooter, but because I've taken this training, I'm more self-aware. I have a greater understanding of how to think on my feet. I have more emotional mastery when in a precarious situation, so I don't feel powerless. Um, I feel more confident in and prepared for situational situations, whatever, that was an oxymoron. Whatever may come at me, I just feel like I feel more calm inside. I don't feel that I'm nervous or have anxiety or angst about living my life and
Yes.
going out into the world and doing what I like to do and what I need to do,
Yes,
So,
you are 100% correct. And what else? Let me add to that. Any defense course. So some people say, well, you have to have this defense course or this defense course, or all women's defense, self-defense course is not worth it. Any self-defense course,
anything.
whether it's firearm self-defense, active shooter self-defense, or a self-defense course or fighting course that you go through, creates a tactical mindset within you.
Yes.
And that is the key thing. It's to get you out of that white and put you into that orange area, to where you're thinking through these things and you're understanding that there's threats everywhere. You're able to recognize these things prior. The biggest thing I always tell a lot of my clients is avoidance, right? Nobody wants to get punched in the face. And as many times that I went to fights, I don't want to get into fights,
Of
because
course.
bad things will happen. You will get hurt. It hurts. It sucks. It's not good. So the best thing I do is avoidance. If I could see things transpiring, then I use avoidance to move myself out of that area. That is what self-defense courses, once they start teaching you the actual physicality of self-defense, your body, your brain starts redeveloping, and it starts looking at things from a different
Your
prism.
radar's up. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so you use a lot of self avoidance, because you understand the reality of an actual attack.
And that self-awareness is power.
Yes.
I want to also add to this too. Walk with a purpose.
Yes, definitely.
When you're walking somewhere, shoulders back, head up, walk with a purpose. And when you function in that space, it's like nobody wants to mess with you, because you're clearly aware of yourself.
Yes,
There was
definitely.
there was a study. This was done a really long time ago, and I used to use it as an example in my seminars. And it was done in New York State with guys that had been put in jail for rape. And they put together this group of guys, and they had them assess different. It was like a controlled environment, I should say that first. And they would have like a woman walk across this stage or platform or whatever, and they recorded it, and then they had the guys view it after the fact. And they had several women do this walk, and then they had these guys say, which one that they would target.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that they all chose the same woman that they would target based on her body language.
Yes.
It's like,
target.
it's an easier target. It's like our body is communicating non-verbally. Like 50, I want to say like 55% of communication is non-verbal.
Yes.
You're sending a message.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're sending your message as an easy target. And criminals want to go after easy targets. That's
sure
the whole
least
point.
Resistance, right?
Yeah, it's the least resistance.
Yeah.
Why should I go after something that's going to give me a lot of trouble, when I know that if I just wait a little bit longer, I'll have an easier target?
Yeah.
Don't be a target of opportunity. And that is what self-defense courses.
Oh, that's good. Don't be a target of opportunity. Yeah.
That's where self-defense courses retrains the body, retrains the mind. And
Yeah.
also it prepares you for those scenarios. So
It does.
when you are faced with those things, it's not as much of a shock, and you're going to fall to that level of training. So, for me, what I tell a lot of my clients is go out there, you don't need to find somebody with, 3 black belts or anything
Right.
like that. Find somebody to teach you some self-defense.
Do you run classes, Anthony?
Yes, I do. I do individual classes, I do group classes. I'm working on female self defense courses. A lot of it dealing with human trafficking. I mean, it's one of the biggest things that's
Huge.
happening. Is as everyone thinks human trafficking is actually outside the United States. There's a lot of human trafficking, billions of dollars of human trafficking happening in the United States
And
all the
not
time,
just in the
every day.
big cities, but in the small towns too.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so you have these females getting abducted, and teaching them self-defense is one of the key things. And it's an area where, people say it's a niche area. I don't. I think it's a vital area because of where things are
Mhm.
going.
I actually know someone that's a chaplain in Canada, and the the sex trafficking and the human trafficking is just a colossal problem. Where, and then of course there's the brainwashing that goes along with that once you're captive, right? That's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down. We have a couple minutes left, so we were going to talk a little bit about the big picture. You know,
Yes, yes,
what
yes.
what do we do to save our country?
Oh my. Well, you know what? If first starts with the individual, understand the mindset.
Yeah,
Individual tactics and techniques that you actually do and employ, and then it's holding our politicians accountable, our community accountable. And everyone wants to go to the biggest area, which is the federal government. We need
right.
to start at the local level.
Yes,
you
at
know
home, at
you,
home.
you got to start with the city council. You got to start with them. I tell a lot of people that get involved. If you don't want to run, support a candidate that's going to be doing it, and
Yeah,
support a candidate comes from the community
it
that
does.
has the same value. A lot of times we look at candidates; they have to have 5 degrees and a PhD for them to be a candidate on a for anything. The job of an actual politician, whether it's at the community level with the city council all the way to the president, is to serve the wishes of the people.
That's right. Servants, servants.
It's a servitude position. So I don't feel that you need to have 5 PhDs to be able to do this if you're just being a servitude of the people.
I'd rather
And
have somebody that's street smart.
exactly. So at the lower level, we start with communities, and we start with
Yeah,
the city councils. We hold them accountable. We vote them out. We put people in there, regardless if it's right, left, or
that's
Democrat
right.
or Republican. You look into the individual person, what they're doing for the community. Second to that, you hold the prosecutors accountable, the judges accountable for
Yes,
doing their jobs. You hold law enforcement accountable, or you support law enforcement in most cases. You got to support them. Have rallies for law enforcement, telling the city council and the mayors that we need to prosecute these people, and we need police out there. We need police doing their jobs, and we need support of the police.
yeah, we do.
And then instead of the trickle down from the top down, hoping that it'll trickle down into the communities, we got to go exact opposite. You got to go from the bottom, you got to go from the
You have to.
communities, and then spread it
Grassroots.
out from there.
Yeah, yeah,
That's where
and
the
I
change is coming.
yeah. So also then board of supervisors, you know, and local legislators like get on their case, write letters, make phone
Yes.
calls. I know it's like who has time? I get it, but it's really we're talking about quality of life here. You know what you want, what kind of an environment you want to reside in. You're paying taxes, so you're paying for that environment. It's your duty to get involved. And I want to add something to that, and then you can. I want you to give your website. Um, Another thing you can do is contact your your police department and ask them when their next Citizens Police Academy runs, and
Yes.
sign up for it and go through their Citizens Police Academy. It's an eye opener. I've done that, graduated from one with the LAPD, and then I co-created their level 2 Citizens Police Academy with the LAPD. And turns out we're the only law enforcement agency in the country that has 2 levels, because I wanted more information.
Yeah.
I'm at week 12 or whatever it was, and I'm thinking, okay, now what? What's next? And so I started working with the sergeant that was in charge of the program and said, as a resident, as a citizen, I want to know what's next. This is fascinating. I had no idea what you guys go through, absolutely no idea. So do that, get involved, contact your sheriff's department. They have the police and the sheriff's department also have community police advisory boards. Get involved.
Yeah, that is the key thing, is get involved. We have to take control of our communities. And if not, it's going to go and continue the way it's going, and the danger is just going to get worse.
Yeah.
And having this podcast and talking about this is the first set of self-awareness,
It is.
listening to it, self-awareness
Thank
of
you.
my environment, and understanding this. Now it's the next level. What am I going to do? My individual tactics. How do I need to build myself up? And then what I need to do out in the community.
Yeah.
Talking like this and trying to become leaders out here to try to motivate people to do the right thing, to get involved, is our step in trying to do. We just got to keep pushing that.
Yes, we do. Okay, so people can hire you, they can contract you, you travel, you're nationwide, you'll go international. How do they reach you?
So they can reach me in two areas. One, I have a website called Rockfin Group.
Yeah.
You can reach me on there, or you can reach me directly on LinkedIn at
Okay.
Anthony Sabio on LinkedIn. And I get a lot of inquiries. If I can't personally take care of the situation, I have a network within vetted professionals through Rockfin Group that I've vetted, and they work through me to provide the services that I deem necessary. So
I love it.
I give a free consultation on Rockfin Group. You get a free hour consultation, kind of just talk about what your needs are, and then we could go from there and design something for you.
Oh, that's brilliant. So rockfingroup.com. Does Finn have one N or two?
Two N's.
So it's the Irish version.
Yes.
Yes. That's fantastic. Anthony, thank you. You are like brilliant. You're a wealth of information and absolutely an expert. Again, thank you for your service to our country and really appreciate you. Definitely come back again.
All right. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much.
All right. You take care.